measurement. And of course, this week is all about imperial measurement. It's the very first measurement we started with the king and the king's foot at the marketplace. It's how we first started to get a standard measure. But over time, with using our bodies to measure things, we started to come up with more and more and more measurements. Now, after the kings and queens and stuff came the emperors. The emperors of Rome came after the kings and queens. Now, of course, we're using the king's foot to measure, and the king's hand span, and the king's cubit for measuring the ark, and then the yard, and then the fathom. The Roman soldiers, they used to use these body ones too. They used the king's foot, but Roman soldiers can't march by a king's foot to measure distance. March, march, march. Can you try and march and put heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. Touch your heel to your toe and your heel to your toe. Marching as though you're some sort of famous Roman soldier. March, 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 march. Heel, toe, touch your heel to your toe. That's not Roman marching. The Roman soldiers marched everywhere in their legions. And they marched in straight, precise rows, and they marched very, very formally. Let's lift up our legs and march like a Roman soldier. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's how the Roman soldiers were marching. Goodness me. So that's not a foot. Their marching step was called a pace. And that's how the Roman soldiers measured the distance that they'd been travelling as they travelled in a pace. And a pace is 2 steps. It's about 5 feet. So it's 2 steps. So if we stand here and we go step, step, between your first one and your second one should be 5 of the king's feet. Can you grab your foot-long stick from yesterday, please? Stand at the floor, make a mark of some sort, use a shoe or a marker or something, work out where you are, and then do 2 marching steps. 1, 2, stop. Now measure from there to here. It should be about between 4 and 5 of the king's feet. Put your stick down and measure between 4 and 5 of the king's feet. That's called a pace. 5 feet is a pace. And that's how the Romans would measure how far they'd gone, because 1,000 paces was 1 mile, a Roman mile. And that's how long, you would see how many miles the Roman army would march. And they would call it, they'd march 5 miles or 10 miles or 15 miles, and the Roman mile was 1,000 paces. Interesting, right? So I've got some writing up here on the board. It says the mile. This is where the mile came from. It's the Romans. The Romans used the foot as a standard for measurement. They used that king's foot to measure. They used the pace for longer distances. The pace is 5 feet, 5 of the king's foot long things. And a mile was 1,000 paces. And I've got here a little Roman soldier that I've just started. Where are my chalks? Here we are. Look, I remembered them today. I didn't have to go running around the classroom looking for them. Here we go. So I've got kind of a head shape in here. I did a round head shape and I brought it down his back, straight down his back, curved his butt round a little bit. Give him a little bit of a curved butt, because when you stand you got a bit of a curved butt. Down his legs, down his thighs, to his knees and then down his calf muscles, down to his feet. And then I've got his second leg sticking out as though he's marching. So I've got to come out with a leg and then down. Now I need to dress him. Can't have a naked soldier. It's not going to work, is it? So he's going to have that silver helmet over his head, that grey silver helmet over his head that hangs down, and it's got that red tuft on the top of it. Then he's going to have one of those red, they kind of look like skirts, to tell you the truth. So we're going to put some red and then we'll give him a bit of a golden belt around his middle. And then he's going to have some silver armour plating over the top. So we'll give him some armour plating over his shoulder, come down his back and his front with his armour, around his armour bit. We better give him some sort of a big shield, hadn't we? Some sort of a big shield. He probably needs a sword of some sort, and then we get to give him some like boot type things. So he'll have those cross ones, those Roman sandal cross boots. Okay, so we've got a Roman soldier, and the pace is, we're measuring a pace. A pace is 5 feet, 5 of the king's feet, or 2 natural steps. Starting 1, 2, that's a pace. 1, 2, that's a pace. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's the pace. And if you do 1,000 of those, you cover a whole mile. Oh my gosh. This is what you're writing today. I'm going to come down to the table with you and show you where we're up to in our books. So, let's have a little look-see. What's it? Can we see that under cam 2? Yes. We've got our title page with our scales on the king's table with his feather quill and his candle and his parchment he's writing. He's going to be measuring things in his scales. And then after the scales, we did our writing about how the king was measured everything from his foot. And then we've got our picture where we've done our body measurements to show how measuring started. Body measurements, the foot, the span, the cubit, the yard, and the fathom. Then we turned the page and we had Noah's Ark yesterday, and how, because it was something that was measured 300 cubits long and 50 cubits wide. And you drew your Noah's Ark and then out you went. And then today you're going to do your writing for the mile, and you're going to draw your Roman soldier. Put your measurements on for a pace. Remembering that there's a capital letter at the beginning of a sentence, a full stop at the end, a capital letter here, tall letters are tall, small letters are small, and tail letters hang down, and you're putting your dots in to line up your writing and keep it straight. Okay, come back to the blackboard, please. So you are writing now. The Romans used the foot as a standard for measurement. They used the pace for longer distances, 5 feet, and a mile was 1,000 paces. In your nicest writing with the most beautiful picture of a Roman soldier. And then I shall see you shortly for a snack.